the chair of the Ashbourne Reborn Programme Board, and that's a board run under the auspices of Derbyshire Dales District Council. There are two other boards associated with that, which we'll come to in a few minutes. I suppose I better do the housekeeping bit first. You can see the exits, the fire exits, all lit up in green, and the toilets are stage left, so over there, through the red door there, and gents are on one side and ladies on the other, and I can't remember which was which now, but that's where the toilets are. The meeting's really called so that you have an opportunity to hear again about the scheme, and to ask questions and to make suggestions. And while a lot of the scheme is now fixed, I think we'll be really pleased to hear what suggestions you have, particularly about particular small issues and larger issues that can be changed now, given that a lot of it is actually fixed and budgeted for. So what I'd like to do is talk first of all about, talk for 6 minutes, and then I'll be introducing Anne Wright, Tony Walker, and Councillor Simon Spencer, who are going to talk about their particular parts of the scheme. So the latest plans that you will see have been based on a significant development since the original scheme was put in, and in terms of the detail that's been added and work that's been done to ensure that what is proposed, what is planned, meets the budget available. So I'll go on now and talk about the history of the scheme. So it's the original, we started up first of all in March 2022, when a bid was put in by Derbyshire Dales for up to £20 million. And then in January 2023, government announced that 80 successful round 2 bids out of 370 included the Ashbourne Reborn programme. And following that, from January 23 to December 24, there was a consultation period with members of the public, and detailed design and costing work has been done. And it sounds like a long period of time for such detailed design and costing, but indeed the officers in the County Council and the District Council and in the Methodist Church and other stakeholders have worked very hard throughout that period in ensuring that what is planned is deliverable and deliverable to budget. So that enabled us to start the main works in the beginning of next year for completion in December next year. And that again is going to be a very short period of time really for such an extensive project, involving much of the public realm in the centre of Ashbourne, and of course the Methodist Church, which is already being vacated to enable work to be undertaken. So by December 2025, the public works element of the scheme and the Link Community Hub in the Methodist Church will be completed, with all the grant funding should be spent by March 2026 to remain within the financial year in which it's allowed to be spent. So we have a tight schedule, and we hope that we will be able to keep to schedule and complete the work by the majority of the work by December 2025, and the final elements of it by March 2026. Okay. So the programme is managed by Derbyshire Dales District Council through a programme board, and then there are 2 particular elements of the programme. There is the public realm work, which is being undertaken by the County Council, and the Link Community Hub, which is being managed and developed by the Methodist Church. And these two, each of these has its own project board, which is responsible for those two projects within the overall programme. Derbyshire Dales District Council is responsible for funding, for ensuring that the funds are spent properly and in line with the plan. And the two other bodies, the County Council and the Methodist Church, are responsible for the main work undertaken. So Derbyshire Dales District Council also has to report back to government on the use of the funds and progress in completing the project. So moving on then to the programme partners, there are quite a large number of partners involved in this, and it's a real partnership between a number of Ashbourne organisations and the District Council, the County Council and the Methodist Church, funded by government, of course. And I'd like to draw attention to Ashbourne Town Team, Ashcom, and the Ashbourne Town Council, all of whom have contributed time, expertise, and have enabled funding, match funding to be provided. And I think without those Ashbourne organisations, this project would not have gone ahead. And it came from Ashbourne, it's an Ashbourne project, and really it's being facilitated by the District Council, the County Council, and the Methodist Church. So moving to funding, the overall budget is now £15.9 million. It was 15.22 originally, so it's gone up a little bit by about £700,000, and that has been provided by additional match funding. Total match funding, that's funding coming from the Ashbourne organisations and the Town Council and the District Council and the County Council, and the Methodist Church, of course, amounts to £2.5 million, or a bit over £2.5 million out of the total budget of £15.9 million. So again, the Ashbourne is contributing in terms of raising funds for this project and making sure that it will therefore succeed. So thank you very much for bearing with me. I'd like now to hand over to Anne Wright of the Ashbourne Town Team, who is going to talk a little bit more about her involvement, or their involvement in the scheme. Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As Councillor Hughes have just said, this initiative is very much a partnership on the part of a lot of key players within the town. And this whole journey sort of probably started about 5 years ago when the district, our local district councillors, organised a public meeting with the new leader, then new leader of the district council. And there was, an overwhelming attendance at that time and a huge amount of concern expressed by everyone there about the state of Ashbourne, a real worry and concern that things were deteriorating very quickly, and almost a sense of desperation and hopelessness as to what could we do to address it. The three big issues that were there, they are still there, but what we took away from that meeting was a group of people got together as we've called ourselves the town team, and there's some fantastic expertise and connections that those people have within the town, and we tried to pull together a strategy to try and address some of those issues that we were facing. And, you know, the big concerns you're all very familiar with. We're all very upset you know, our lives are blighted every day by the heavy traffic that thunders through the town and impacts all our daily lives. People were very concerned about the decline of the town centre and increasing number of empty shops and physical decline that was very, very evident. And also the other issue was car parking and worries about aspects of that. You know, when you get into these issues, it's difficult to, you know, always address them, and things aren't within our power. But we have tried, and I think we've now started the journey and hopefully starting to address some of those issues, of which Ashbourne Reborn is a key part. We all know, I think everybody in an ideal world, we'd all love a bypass, and we'd love to eliminate the issue of the heavy traffic through the town. And there's been some huge efforts by, you know, a lot of people in this room, not least Simon Spencer, you know, in championing that cause and trying to address that. But, you know, the reality is, if we do get a bypass, it isn't going to happen for a while. So we tried to look as a town team as to, you know, was there scope, were there things that we could do at least to try and mitigate the problem. And the strategy for Ashbourne Reborn came from that. We joined forces and we met through all the work that we were doing with a fantastic team at the Methodist Church, and they had the most amazing project that, you know, would be really something very exciting and a real wow factor for the town. And it was great to be able to come together as the community, and we've worked very closely and tried to involve the town council, the district council and the county council, and we've all got to know each other over these years. And I think one of the great things that's been achieved with this is actually everyone working together with a common goal of trying to improve our town and where we live, and trying to have some pride. We are still at the beginning. I know there are still, you know, many things in what is being delivered with Ashbourne Reborn that we would like to improve and that we would like to do even better. But there are practical constraints, not least of that budget and money. What we thought was a huge amount of money at the outset, in the space of 3 years, and the inflation that everybody has seen in their daily lives, that has dramatically impacted, you know, where we are. So there have been compromises, but nevertheless, I think we will come out of this with a foundation that will be a kickstart for Ashbourne. I think we've already seen improvements. We've seen the benefit of investment coming into the town. The High Street, St John Street, is all starting to look better and coming alive. And I'm hoping that Ashbourne Reborn will really deliver a further step change for that. We can't take away the traffic. Sadly, we can't take away the heavy goods vehicles. But one of the key things that hopefully the Public Realm and Highways project will achieve is, as you see from the pictures, is actually to narrow the highway, broaden the footpaths, and to make the whole environment feel more like a pedestrian environment, rather than the priority being, the traffic, and particularly the heavy goods traffic that thunders through. There will be more natural crossing points, and the whole thing should feel much more pedestrian, pedestrian-friendly environment. Beyond that, the public realm part also delivers some significant improvements to the marketplace, to Millennium Square, which was a fantastic initiative by the town council, and Victoria Square. And all of those areas, the changes that we will see, will really make Ashbourne look so much more attractive than it is now. There's also Shrovetide Walk, where Ashcombe have very successfully established, a really great market every Thursday, and that area will be improved too. And what we're now looking to do as a town team is to try and move this on to the next level. The infrastructure, we're going to have an improved infrastructure. We're going to have the capital investment in the town that will give us much better facilities. And as a town team, we're now working, and we're working with all the local partners to try and look at how can we now progress this from beyond this, and looking at ways that we can come together as a community to actually use these new public spaces, particularly the marketplace, and to bring events, to bring activities, to bring the local community together more, and to, you know, have major initiatives that are going on. Looking at, you know, whether we can perhaps reinstate a town manager role, and bring together, perhaps through a business improvement district. We're currently conducting a feasibility study, and hope some of you have been involved in that consultation. And the consultation and development programme will continue over the course of the next few months, so there'll be plenty of opportunities to get involved and to look at how can we come together as a community and to deliver a structure amongst our community to be able to manage this, you know, new town centre that we will have. So that's our objective, and I know there are probably, you know, a lot of questions and there are concerns about things, but let's try and be positive. This is going to be a step change for Ashbourne. It's going to be a significant improvement, and then it's going to be down to us as to how we manage that and how we run it to make the most of it, and also to continue to raise investment. This isn't the end of it. There are other opportunities for investment in our town, and we'll be actively going out and working with the local partners that we've built this great relationship with to try and deliver that even more over the course of the next several years. So, thank you. That's me.
Right, I'm going to hand over to Tony Walker now from the Methodist Church. Thank you very much, Anne.
David. Well, good evening. My name's Tony Walker, and I'm the leader of the Link Development team, and we're very fortunate in this town to have a very capable team of people with the correct skill set to manage a big project like this. So next slide, please. And the really good news is, after years of planning and fundraising, the transformation of Ashbourne Methodist Church has commenced, and the main contractor started on site in November. A Link Development team was established in 2015. At that time, we realised we have very large buildings in the centre of Ashbourne, and that we needed to do something to keep them for the long-term future. We looked at, shall we give up? It's all too difficult. And but we decided that we would go through a consultation process. We would go for a big transformational change and turn those buildings into a community asset. And the first architect's designs and consultations were conducted in 2016. And from that, they're grade 2 listed buildings inside a conservation zone. We have all sorts of ecology-related issues. We progressed and we got planning permission for a smaller scheme in 2021. We had also started our fundraising by then, and by that time, we had about 800,000 from our fundraising gifts, from members of the church, from friends of the church, and also from grants from grant-giving organisations. And we had been talking with the town team already, and we realised that if we put together the town team's schemes and ideas for improving the streets and the public spaces, called Highways and Public Realm, together with the community hub ideas that we had, and not just community, also a performance and events venue, that actually we had a good chance of meeting the criteria to have a successful LUF bid. And there was discussion with Derbyshire Dales. We beat off Wirksworth and Matlock, and we became the selected town bid to go to government. And we are the only successful LUF bid in the whole of Derbyshire. So we were right. We did have a whole scheme that met the criteria of the LUF bid. And that, Anne was referring to that. LUF bid had certain criteria. It wasn't bypasses. Whether we could have chosen not to bid for LUF, but what's the benefit of that? So what we have got is we've got the LUF bid. We received LUF funding early in 2023, and since then there's been a huge lot of work. With LUF funding, spending taxpayers' money, there come a lot of requirements. You have to secure your contractors and your architect and your designers and all of that following government procurement guidelines, which is not only going out to tender, it's also evaluating those tenders against a given matrix, and it's all that sort of stuff. So it's been a lot of work. Councillor Hughes referred to that, but we procured the design team. We obviously already had architects to get our previous scheme, but we had to go through a scheme. We had to go through securing and appointing the architects again, all of those sorts of things. We appointed project managers and project manager, lawyers. We obtained planning permission for the bigger scheme. We conducted all our ecology surveys, and we've got to the point where we discharged all the pre-start conditions and selected the main contractor. So next slide, please. The development of the church will result in the creation of the Link Centre, which is a community hub and performance venue, and also Gateway Lodge. So with the LUF scheme, we've been able to have the funds to upgrade the visitor accommodation, which is below the church, and become very tired and old, and we're going to call that Gateway Lodge. So the Link Centre comprises a new welcoming entrance and hub on Station Road with street-level access at the heart of the project, designed to blend in with and preserve the historical facade. And on Church Street, the facade doesn't change at all. There will be one large event space, which is currently the church space, and the two refurbished halls are also big event spaces with seating capacities from 100 to 300 people, all able to accommodate flexible setups for performances, exhibitions, meetings, weddings, social events, and local community organisations. There will be 3 state-of-the-art meeting rooms in the lower level of the new building, the new hub, with AV and seating capacities between 6 and 12 people. There will be hot desking facilities. The whole thing will be a mobility hub with bus and what's-on information. Mobility hub means a place where you can transfer from one form of mobility to another, from cycling to walking, from buses to from cars onto buses, and so on like that. And there'll be new toilets, including a changing places toilet. Here's the next slide. So the new Link Foyer building, and there it is there, and it's quite a familiar slide now, will provide access to all parts of the building directly from Station Road. And the next slide, please. The new Link building will provide access to the large event space, to the refurbished halls, and to the new meeting rooms. And this next slide shows the plans. Maybe you can't see exactly, but so clearly. But anyway, the blue parts, the light blue parts, are the general performance space, which is also the worship space and the event space. And the part at the front is the new Link Foyer. And the existing hall, which is a slightly darker blue, is shown there as well, Century Hall. And the next slide shows you how we will have a flexible event space. The pews have already gone in the downstairs area, and we are levelling the floor. The floor was slightly raked, and all the fixed elements of staging that were there and pulpit and so on have gone. And we have many options to use this for events. You can see a couple of standard ones at the top, a sort of maximum capacity one to the right, in the round at the bottom left, facing sort of away from the new entrance. The new main entrance will be from this new foyer on Station Road, so to the side of the current building. So this, I believe, provides, we believe, the government was convinced, will provide an events and a performance and cultural space which Ashbourne hasn't got today, which will improve the town. It improves our sense of place, our sense of a good place to live, and all those sorts of things. Next, we have a cornerstone coffee house. This will be partially remodelled and opened out to the Link Foyer to accommodate the forecasted increase in people wanting to get together on a social basis for a drink or a light meal. Basically, this is the thing that will be open all the time, providing the service, providing something which people would like. So the vibrant heart of being open for all and the hub of being in use every day. If we look at the next one, that is the slightly sandy, yellow-covered bit to the bottom left. And it's changed around, if you know it now, that the counter serves out onto the entrance on Church Street, but it will be changed around so the counter serves out towards Station Road and will be opened out into the new foyer. So all that space will be available for refreshment and for community meeting. And next is Gateway Lodge. I ought to just back up slightly. So our original plan, we were funding our original scheme, the scheme for which we got permission in 21, by actually selling the land we have between the church and the brook, and that was going to be, we had planning permission for that to be turned into apartments, and that would have helped to fund the original scheme. With the government funding, we've not had to do that. So I think this is another great benefit for the community. We are being able to completely remodel the visitor accommodation. So this will offer affordable accommodation for visitors and should, right in the town centre, increasing the footfall in the town. There'll be 7 ensuite bedrooms and 2 self-catering apartments, sleeping from 2 to 6 people. It'll be available for small or large groups up to 42 people. At the moment, it's big dormitories. It will become YHA-style, hostel-style accommodation. It's an option to hire any of the halls, so it's attractive to groups or associations that might want to come and stay in the town and hold some sort of event. And bedrooms will be available for individual bookings for visitors or visiting family. And the next slide, that is the green area. This is the lower ground below the church performance space. And it's also extended a bit with a new extension out towards the garden. And you can see that there are multiple bedrooms. And there's also the old caretaker's house, which will be turned into 2 bedroom apartments for visitors. And the community garden is also, as I referred to just now, becomes a possibility. We'll have good access from Station Road and through the buildings. We'll have a paved area and larger grass areas with new tree planting. And we will be and the next slide, we will be looking for community partners to be involved in the development of the garden as well. So the preparation work has been done by volunteers with local contractor support, and a lot of work has been done to empty the buildings already, and it's now handed over to the main contractor, Messenger Construction Limited. You can see some of the more tricky items coming out. You can see the grand piano coming out, and you can see the organ console coming out. I wasn't there, but I'm told that a passerby said, that's not something you see every day, and indeed it isn't. So and it's even snow on the ground that day. And the pews have now gone. You can see them stacked up there, but they have now actually physically gone as well. And the next slide, please. Something's happened to the slides, so we've got part of the next one. Start at the beginning. Anyway, volunteers will be at the heart of all that we're doing. Once the Link Centre and Gateway Lodge are fully operational, the aim is to have 200 volunteers, and we involved in the continued running of this community hub and this performance and event space. A planning team is now working out possible roles and organisation, and roles might include ushering at events, welcoming visitors, gardening, and many more. And we look forward to communicating more detail in the coming months. As Councillor Hughes referred to, costs have increased, and the church has increased its funding commitment. The LUF grant which the church had is 5 million out of the total 13 odd from government, and we were providing match funding of 1.4 million, and the cost of the Link Community Hub in the LUF bid was 6.4 million. There has been huge inflation. Everybody knows this, the cost of living crisis, all of that, but it applies to building costs as well. So there's been significant building cost inflation, and we have a revised total cost of 7.1 million. The LUF grant remains as it is, 5 million, so the church needs to find 2.1 million. And our fundraising currently is 1.1. So we need to find a further million, and we've taken it on. It is a challenge. Do I wake up in the mornings thinking, how are we doing it? I do. And anyway, we are progressing with that, and we're kind of proceeding in belief that we can do this. So we're doing fundraising with renewed impetus. We do believe that when people see things coming out of the ground, we will have a new impetus for fundraising, but we've also applied to increase the church's loan facility. And the church is proud. We are providing over 80% of the match funding for the whole town. So we are proud to do that. And I think that is an integral part of how the bid was successful. Although it wasn't 2.1 at that time, it was less. We did have and we had the funds in the bank, as well as having the planning permission when the LUF bid was proposed. The construction will take just over 12 months. So the Link Centre and Gateway Lodge are due to open early 2026. The Cornerstone Coffee House will remain open until the middle of 2025. All the rest of the premises are now a building site. So for safety reasons, the footpath and parking bays on Station Road will be closed during the construction. The contractors will make every effort to keep disruption to a minimum, but do please accept our apologies for any inconvenience. And for more information, the slide, some part of this slide was up already. You can email questions to Ashbourne Reborn at Derbyshire Dales. There's an email newsletter which you can sign up for with Ashbourne from Derbyshire Dales. There's social media. There's an Ashbourne Reborn website, which is shown there, and we now have our own church website called thelinkproject.co.uk. And we would be pleased to receive feedback and comments and be pleased to answer questions. Thank you very much. Do I stay here for questions on this now, or how does that go?
Does anybody have any questions?
And there's a roving mic, I guess. I'll take that as no. Beetle off.
So we've got a representative from Quegg's Sixth Form Council here with a question.
Please. Yeah.
Hello. So will this space be open to like young people and things? Will it open more space in Ashbourne for like the younger generation and things?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's the idea. And we will have rooms suitable for societies, small societies and big societies. So we'll have rooms suitable for 6, and we'll have rooms suitable for 100, and spaces suitable for 300. And we think that flexibility is something which the town will benefit from.
Thank you.
And keeping the town centre alive is another very good point. Yes, there's going to be another presentation about the streets and the public spaces, and I'm not qualified to answer those questions. Somebody else will take those, yeah. Thank you.
I've probably jumped the gun then, because I'm thinking exciting, loads more people, hundreds more people coming into the town. Where are they going to put their cars?
Unfortunately, that isn't my question to answer, so I will pass that over to the next person. Shall we move on? Is that perhaps the best thing to do? Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. Over to Councillor Spencer. I think he's going to talk about where to park cars, but he'll talk about a lot of other things as well, particularly how the public realm work is going to evolve and the delays or the closure of St John Street, I guess, will figure in your speech.
Thank you, David. Good evening, everybody, and I'm delighted to see so many people here this evening. And before I start, I just want to make a few thank yous, because this is truly a community-driven attempt to improve our town. I want to pay tribute to all the people who have given so much time voluntarily to support this programme. I have the privilege, or you may call it other things, but I have the privilege of chairing the Public Realm Committee, and we've met for many, many hours and covered off many, many things that you would not believe, I have to say. And I'm going to try and give you a bit of a summary of what we've been doing for the last 18 months and explain to you what has been going on and what is going to be going on in the very near future. So the agenda for this programme. I'm going to talk very shortly about the project aims and the approach that we're taking. I think we've covered off the aims already. The phasing of the works, the traffic management that needs to take place as a consequence of that phasing, and then at the end of it, I'm happy to take any questions that anybody may have on the programme. So, the aims. To bring back the vitality, the vibrancy, and improve the economy of the town. That is fundamentally what this is all about. An idea driven by voluntary groups and being delivered by working in collaboration with the town council, the district council, the county council, and all the voluntary groups we've heard about earlier. We want to transform the public spaces, the marketplace, Victoria Square, Millennium Square, and Shrovetide Walk, and also improve the pedestrian experience for people visiting our town. And that means major upheaval. I don't want anybody tonight to be in any doubt whatsoever. This is going to be major upheaval. And you cannot do this programme without carrying out that significant planning that has been taking place. So, you've seen some of the slides outside. There's a picture on the screen behind me of what it hopefully will look like in a few months' time. They are artist's impression, they are not definitive. They give you an idea and a flavour of what the street scene will look like. And outside in the foyer you can see lots of pictures of the marketplace, Victoria Square, Shrovetide Walk, and the plans associated with the widening of the pavements and the alterations that will be taking place in due course. So, what have we been doing? Well, the preparation for this scheme has been significant, and just let me give you a flavour of some of the things that the group's been talking about over the last 18 months. Obviously, to carry out a street scene alteration in the size and the scope of this programme, we needed to understand in detail the condition of the street itself. As I'm sure you can appreciate, many years ago, many of the shops used to have loading shafts in front of them. We needed to understand where they are and how they are covered over underneath the pavements. We've needed to speak to the shop owners, talk to them about their particular needs with regard to what facility accesses they need when the work starts. And we need to understand the impact on them and their customers. And that has been a significant amount of work carried out by a very small team of people and also a very small team of volunteers also. We've been digging trial holes around the town, as you've probably noticed. That's to establish the depth and the location of many of the utilities around the town. Obviously, over the years, things have been altered significantly. We've got lots of IT in the ground, we've got lots of sewerage systems, water systems, we've got lots of technology in place now with the introduction of new traffic lights, which I'll cover off in a moment or two. And all this has been a major challenge. And of course, we had added extras such as hostile vehicle mitigation measures, which may sound a mouthful, but it was off the back of the Manchester Arena attack, that where we create a public space for people to use for gathering, we have to make sure that they're safe and protected from people who may choose to attack them. So that in its own right has been quite a task. So if we can move on quickly to the phasing. There's 3 phases to the programme. Phase 1 of 3 is on the screen behind me, and this is the entrance, or the southern entrance, into the programme off Compton towards the bridge, over the bridge into Dig Street and up to the lights at the junction of where the old NatWest Bank used to be and the bank public house is. The programme is there for all to see. It has been adjusted slightly because National Grid have very kindly decided they need to carry out some work. Now, I'd much sooner they do it before we've got the surface back again. So they're going to be doing that right at the beginning of January and hopefully be out of the way and allowing us to start by the end of the month. So that has been a slight delay, which we weren't expecting. But I just want to say that we've worked incredibly hard to make sure that all the utility companies and all the agencies out there have bought into this programme and understand what we are doing so that they can plan their inward investment into the town by upgrading their facilities, getting their work done before we relay the roads and the pavements, and make sure that their scheduling fits in with the programme of works that we've got to roll out. And that is going to be a challenge in its own right. So behind me, you can see the schedule. I'm not going to read through it all, but it's quite clear what is going to be done at what particular time. Moving on to phase 2. Now, phase 2 is the challenging bit, to say the least. We all know that if St John Street is interrupted in its traffic flow in any way or form, it causes significant problems. It cannot do anything else because it is the only main road travelling from south to north. Now, we had long discussions with our main contractor about how we could do this effectively and efficiently, and how we could do it in the most sensitive way that accommodated the needs of the shopkeepers, allowed them to trade, and also make sure that we were doing it in a financially viable and sustainable fashion. Now, we did consider maintaining traffic flow through there at all times. But we, as a group, have decided that the best way is to get this particular area of the town dealt with as quickly and effectively as possible by stopping traffic going through St John Street for a period of time. Now, originally, the scheme phase 2 was going to take, I think it was 36 weeks. We've now got it down to 24 weeks, which is a significant reduction. And that is as a consequence of the change in the programme to carry out the work. We have got to maintain access because the shops need deliveries. The facilities down there need access to carry out their day-to-day works, and we also need to maintain pedestrian access into all the properties along that street while this work's being carried out. So as I'm sure you can appreciate, we are digging up the pavement and the road, the whole length, right the way through, and to do that in such a way and maintain that access is going to be somewhat of a huge jigsaw puzzle. And I want to pay tribute to our main contractors as well, because they have worked with us to overcome the challenges of cost with regard to this programme, and that is tribute to them. Moving on to phase 3, and phase 3 is there for all to see. Obviously, the works, many of the works in this particular area have been preparatory works, which have already been carried out by the County Council under the Bus Service Improvement Programme. And I'll explain to you very shortly how those lights work and why they are there in the way they are, and what they have done already, in my opinion, to improve the traffic flow. And then we get to what is also a significant challenging piece of work, and that's the traffic management during the programme, and how we intend as the County Council and the Highway Authority to manage the traffic flow that is going to be significantly affected by the work that's carried out over the next 16 months in totality. So, there is a more detailed explanation in the foyer on what has been done. But we set out with the clear intent that while this work is being carried out, we wanted to remove as much heavy traffic from the town centre as possible. Now, I want to make clear this is a temporary traffic regulation order that will be implemented in due course. It will not be permanent because it cannot be permanent. We are entitled as the Highway Authority to manage the traffic in this way, and this traffic management programme is going to have a significant impact, a negative impact, on many of our neighbouring villages and towns as a consequence. And when you look at what has been done, in a nutshell, we are going to be managing the traffic coming off the A50 towards Ashbourne. HGVs will be steered up the A5, on the Leek Road anyway, forget the number. It's on the Leek Road. We're going to be sending the traffic up the Leek Road. The heavy goods vehicles north. Anything travelling through the town can travel along Clifton Road and Station Street and across onto Belper Road and Sturston Road and out towards the Carsington Reservoir. And of course, traffic coming south will be redirected at the New Haven down the Vigelia, and obviously the residents of Cromford are going to be carrying the volume of that traffic while this work is being carried out. I've not spoken to them yet, but that shall be a jovent experience, I suspect. We're going to be talking about significant alterations, and I don't want anybody to be under any illusions that when we do this, for a few days it's going to be chaos, because we all know that the drivers, they'll follow the sat-navs and they'll end up in the wrong place, and they'll be turning around in the wrong locations, and we're going to have to learn and teach them how to deal with the alterations that are going to be in place for some considerable time. Now, what I've asked the team to do is have an overlay situation where, depending on what area of the town we're working in, the overlay will redirect the traffic at any particular one time in a particular way. That will become quite apparent in due course how that's going to be done. And there is, like I say, there is more information out there about the alternative routes which are going to be provided in due course. Now, moving on to, we haven't got any more slides, so that will finalise those slides out. What I want people to be aware of is that this engagement session is just one of many mechanisms that we've been using over the last few weeks to try and keep the public as informed as possible. It is not easy because it's an ever-changing situation. We've had to compromise on many things, the committee have. We've been compromising this afternoon for 2.5 hours on many issues, such as the materials we're going to use, how they're going to be laid, the crossing points, and all the other stuff that people are rightly concerned about. But we've had to value engineer. Now, when I talk about value engineering, we're talking about doing things slightly different to save ourselves some cash, because £8 million may sound like a lot of money, but when you start a programme of this nature, I can assure you, when you get into the detail, it doesn't go far. You'll have seen on the Park Road, on the Fishpond Meadow, the work has already started where Galliford Try will be setting up their depot. We've chosen that location because it's central to the town. So all the suspicions about what it is going to be used for, it's going to be used by Galliford Try for the next few months as their depot for storing materials and goods, machinery, etc., to allow this scheme to take place in a sensible way without having to ship it round the town continually. We've had to talk about locations. They intend having an office in the town centre throughout the programme. That office hopefully will be finalised very shortly. The location of that will be well known. There'll be information in there. There'll be staff in there who can answer any questions people may have. It's an engagement point for the shopkeepers, any issues they may have. It's a point of contact for the community as a whole to come along. If there's anything of concern, that facility will be there for you to pop in, contact, engage with. We've also got the website, etc. There's many options available to everybody with regard to that. And then there are the community areas across the town that are going to change quite significantly in their layout. We're talking about the Victoria Square is going to be certainly improved and enhanced. The marketplace, who's been missing some sets for some near 25 years, is going to have them back, thankfully. I don't know if anybody knows the story of that, but when it was dug up last time, we stored them in the cattle market and somebody took some of them away. That's why there is a tarmacked area there, and it's been there for a very long time. That's going to be corrected. And then we're going to see significant improvement in the quality of the footways around the town, improvement in the crossing locations, and we've already introduced the traffic lights. Now, many people ask why the lights are there. The lights are now integrated together. They can be coordinated from Matlock. We can control the traffic in such a way with the technology in the system that improves the traffic flow depending on the traffic pressures in any one direction. That has, in my opinion, improved things quite dramatically. And when the scheme is complete, it will improve it even more because there'll be more integration together and we'll be able to control the system better. And hopefully, we won't have any roadworks or holes in the ground that you've been trying to dodge for the last 18 months. Finally, I've just got a bit of a wish list here. We have a little problem, and I wondered if anybody may be able to help us. We want to try and improve the Shawcroft Centre area. It is not land owned by the County Council, but it is a piece of land that has caused significant trip issues for many people in the town. And it's the area that is adjacent to the bathroom place, Henry & Co, John German, the pizza shop and Chic. And we have written to all those residents and we've had one response back from Tree Tops Hospice saying they support us doing it, but we need permission off the other 5. So if anybody knows who owns those properties, I will be really grateful if you could ask them to respond to the correspondence that's been sent to them, because we need their permission to do this. And if we want to get the payments done properly, we need their permission to do so because it's their land. So, I'm here to answer questions tonight. I've got a team of officers. I've got the main contractor, Galliford Try, here. We've been talking today about subcontractors and social value and using as many local companies as we can. We've been talking about the materials we use. Many of those materials are coming from local quarries. We've had to make compromises with some of them because of price. But fundamentally, there has been a huge amount of input over a considerable period of time. Like I say, I want to thank those people involved. They know who they are. They're in this room tonight. All of them are. And I'm going to answer any questions as best I can that you'd like to ask me. So it's over to you. Thank you. The gentleman over there first. Thank you. Second row back, just here.
There's 2 questions I'd like to ask, please. Looking at the banner of St John Street there, where the pavements have been widened, it looks as though it's just a single-track lane now. Is that correct?
Yes.
What happens if a disabled person chooses to park with a blue badge for 2 hours?
Well, we will be putting traffic regulations on that to avoid that happening for starters. And there is a condition under the blue badge scheme, sir, that you cannot park in the public highway and obstruct it. And I would say to anybody who was using the blue badge in that way, it was inappropriate usage. That's
very discriminatory, but anyway, second question I ask is, at the triangle, you are proposing to put pedestrian crossings. We are in breach of conditions of clean air. You're going to have lorries stopping at the bottom of the triangle to let pedestrians cross, then crawl up the Buxton Hill in low gear, contaminating the air. Have you considered that?
Well, I can see you approaching this in a very positive way, sir, I have to say. But let me explain to you, these are not controlled crossings, these are crossing points. And I would expect the traffic to flow in a normal way, and I would expect people to cross the road when the traffic allowed you to do so. They're not controlled crossings. There's only one controlled crossing on the marketplace, which is going to remain where it is. Right. And I cannot understand the prospectus that this is going to make it worse. I would suggest to you, sir, that it's going to make it better, because the design that's taken place and the effort that's gone into it will hopefully slow the vehicles down. There has also been design work on the curvature of the bends to allow them to get round the corner and stay on the actual road itself. And hopefully, by doing so, it should actually reduce the carbon emissions of the vehicles.
I'm sorry, I probably misunderstood. I understood there were proper pedestrian crossings going in.
No, they are crossing points, but they're not controlled popping points.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Maybe down here.
Hi, I'd like to speak to you on behalf of disabled people in the town. I have been trying really hard, emailing. Last June I had no reply from my emails, taking advice from councillors and corresponding with Dan Giles, and I feel that we've not been listened to. I have 4 points I just want to make about disabled and disability in the town. I want you to take you through with the 4 issues. The first one is, for some reason, the 2 disabled spaces that were in the marketplace have been allowed to disappear. They used to have blue plaques on the top of them, and overnight they disappeared, and we've now got tables and benches. Nobody has put any disabled spaces left in that part of the town, why this refurbishment is happening. And if you have a disabled person, I was told to use the car parking spaces that were there, but they are not adequate because they are too narrow. You cannot take a disabled person out, and you can't take a wheelchair either from the side or the back of a car in those places in the town. So I do feel as though they're being left to their own devices with no access to anything in the marketplace over the last year. And I do think that people should have taken some consideration. Now, my second point is that I understand that the allocation in the new Ashbourne Reborn is 1 disabled space. That 1 disabled space, and then there were going to be 3 spaces for able people, is what's on the drawing outside, and that's what I was told. Now, there were 2 disabled spaces before. We're now down to 1 disabled space, and you're going to allocate more parking for people that are able-bodied and can actually walk around the town. If you are disabled, you cannot walk from the main car park to the marketplace. It's too far. We definitely need disabled spaces, a minimum of 3. That would give 1 extra to what used to be there, and they were always, always full. So I'm just appealing to you to please think of the disabled person and their parking, and maybe take the priority from the able person who can actually walk into the marketplace. My third point was that when I was told there was only going to be 1 place, I was then told that you're going to put 2 disabled spaces in St. John Street. Now, I'm terrified. I'll be absolutely honest. I have a disabled husband, and the thought of trying to take him out, he would be on the side of where all the 30-ton trucks are going to be going because it's one way. And I would be taking a disabled man out of a car and taking a wheelchair from the back of the car and pushing it by the side of a 30-ton truck and putting my husband or trying to put him into a car. It's totally inadequate, and it's just a catastrophic accident waiting to happen, if that is the consideration. It may have not been that was what I was told by Dan Giles. My fourth point is that I've been told that you're also going to take away the disabled places outside Boots. There's 3 disabled spaces there, and I was told that they're going to be discontinued as well. And I just think the disabled community has just been discriminated upon in this Ashbourne Reborn. I think the whole thing is fantastic. I love it to happen. But please, please, please think of the disabled person. They have nobody talking for them, nobody speaking. I actually asked when I went into all of this if there was a disabled person on your committee, on any of your committees that was disabled. Was there anybody on there representing the disabled person? There was not one. I'm here tonight as a wife of a disabled man that can't get around your town. And I just don't think that is good enough for anybody in 2025.
Right, madam. There's quite a lot of questions there.
I'm sorry, but...
Yeah, well, let me try and work through them all as best I can. Firstly, I can give you assurance that long discussions have taken place at the delivery board on the issue that you've just articulated. And the 2 spaces that you refer to on the marketplace at present were informal locations outside what is now the Flower Cafe. They've never been, how should I say, specifically designated as disabled locations, but that is irrelevant in many respects. We've had major discussions about parking on the marketplace itself. We've had long discussions about what a compromise situation would look like. The detailed drawings are outside on the layout. Originally, all the car parking was being removed from the marketplace, and during the consultation processes, we've had various representations from traders on the marketplace about the importance of being able to pull up and stop and pop into the shops, whether disabled or otherwise. We have facilitated, there's been a massive reduction in the car parking space on the marketplace itself. In actual fact, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm guessing here probably about 30 odd spaces have been removed for normal usage. Am I right there? 31, there you go. 31 spaces have been removed for ordinary parking of vehicles, which disabled blue badge users can also use as well, as I'm sure you can appreciate.
Sorry, but you can't use them.
You can't use them.
They're too narrow.
Well, let me explain to you what you can do now. Most of the parking spaces on the marketplace are to the side of the monument, and they will be a lot wider than they are at the moment, and you will be able to unload onto a very open space on the left-hand side. So all those will give you ample space for somebody who has got limited ability or disability to get out the car on the left-hand side safely. There is one space that is designated for disabled use directly outside what is known as the chip shop, and there will be allocation, am I right in saying, on the main road itself, on St John Street. Now, can I just say, let me finish, not all disabled badge holders are the passengers in vehicles. Some of them are the drivers in the vehicles. Is that reasonable? So I'm trying my best here with a huge reduction in parking to make the best of the space we have available to us. And that is not easy. And I would also say, I can't speak about the Shawcroft because I didn't realise there was any plans to alter the disabled parking, and that's a district council function anyway. It's the disabled spaces on the Shawcroft are in the control of the district council, and they're not part of this scheme anyway. So I can't comment on that because I don't know the answer. But be assured, we have given due consideration to all the issues you've raised, and I think everybody who sits on this row down here will contest to that. So it would be unfair to suggest we haven't given fair consideration and shown consideration for the people concerned.
Well, I would really just love to say one thing. I willingly will let you have my husband for a whole morning in a wheelchair and a car, and you go and try and go into the spaces that you're providing, because it's impossible. I'm sorry.
Well, the spaces that are being provided on the marketplace, madam,
there's one space.
There is one space allocated for disabled use only, but the other spaces, because they are at the side of the road, if you like, on the cobbled area, if you like, there will be a lot more space there than there is at present, and there won't be a vehicle parked at the side of you.
Why can't you make those disabled spaces?
Because I have to consider everybody, madam.
Well, surely people that can walk, we are considering, aren't we? We're not. They were just being discriminating.
Well, I've got to also consider the shopkeepers and the traders as well.
Okay.
It's not an easy position to be in. Okay? Next one, please. Try this one here, then we'll go backwards around the back.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on the traffic lights. I was so sceptical about the ones at the end of Station Street and onto Church Street, and they work. They've vastly improved the traffic there, so well done. I've got some questions about other areas. The pavement on the edge of the market square, in other words, those parking spaces that you were referring to, I'm a bit concerned about there. I used to be in a mobility scooter for 2 years, and I used to come down that side of the square trying to get down to the middle of town. It's frequently blocked now by parked cars, and I'm worried that those parking spaces will block that access down, that pathway down the side of the square, and I'm not quite clear how that passageway is going to be maintained, and I think you need to give that some consideration. Mobility scooters, if there are cars parking there, won't be able to get through. It's also difficult for people like me with a stick when there are cars in the way. Secondly, those parking spaces are short-term. Okay, a disabled person can stay in them long-term, but the short-term parking needs to be enforced. Enforcement is vanishingly rare in Ashbourne on parking spaces. Once every few weeks people come around and actually put some stickers on cars. So what we need is enforcement as part of this scheme to be active and to continue long term. Parking on pavements has increased markedly recently with no deterrence. People in huge HGVs just run them up onto the middle of the pavement right outside the town hall, and nobody does anything about it. So there needs to be some undertaking on the part of the district council or the county council to up the enforcement levels, please, if that's possible. The other thing I wanted to comment on was the quality of work. When those new traffic lights were installed at that junction, there are a lot of big slabs there, old slabs. A lot of them were damaged, and the quality of work has been shoddy. I wrote to you about it. I think there are 5 different colours of mortar that I've seen there. One a fairly violent pink, and I know we're all going in for Barbie now, but it didn't seem appropriate on cobbles of that antiquity. Can we ensure that that is rectified and future work on the historic slabs around the town is of a high quality, please, so that it lasts?
Shall I answer some of those before I get them all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the first thing, thanks for commenting about the lights, because I do think they have improved things. As far as the colour of the mortar is concerned, that has been taken up with a contractor, and they will be returning in due course to sort it out. Let's put it that way. Let me just talk to you about the parking on the marketplace. Let's go back there again. Parking on the marketplace, as you know better than most, if you've got disabilities, walking across the sets is not easy at the best of times. We are putting an area in there adjacent to the disabled parking bay, which will make that easier. But when I say you may not be able to walk down the side of the road as easily as you might, but you should be able to walk right across the market square because there'll be nothing else there. So I would suggest to you, as far as access in the town centre is concerned, it will be a lot easier in the future, and there will be no vehicles on that area whatsoever, unless it is authorised to do so. With regard to parking on the pavement is a moving traffic offence. It can only be enforced by one agency, the police. I am fed up of telling the police about people parking on the pavement. And the only people who can issue a ticket for doing so are the police. The County Council can't do it, the traffic enforcement officers can't do it, and the only people who can do it is a warrant-carrying police officer.
Or me with a Stanley knife.
Well, I couldn't possibly cover heroin, behave yourself. But I don't... what else was it you mentioned, all right?
The quality of work, the enforcement, and the parked cars. You've dealt with all those 3.
Well, I might as well just come back on the quality of work. Had a lot of complaints about the bridge and the workmanship on the stonework. Let's be blunt about it. I'm not happy with it. It's not satisfactory. So I might just confront it straight on and say that the County Council will be revisiting it after Shrovetide and doing some remediation to. It's not the stone. The stone will season like the rest of it seasoned eventually. It's the joints and the actual workmanship. I'm not satisfied with it. I've asked the Cabinet Member for Highways and Transport to look into it, and that is going to happen after Shrovetide's been completed. Okay. So, next question, please.
I just wondered how the empty space in the market square is going to be used and how often.
Yeah, well, that is another discussion point. It has had numerous hours spent on it. Anne's spoken earlier today about how we manage that space and how we utilise it, and how we utilise it for the benefit of the town. And obviously, over the last few years, it's become traditional that there is seating out there. That seating, of course, needs to be managed, and that's done under a licensing arrangement with the Derbyshire Dales District Council. It's District Council property at the end of the day, and there's the cafe. Is it cafe licence? It's called sitting out's licence. They've changed the name of it. The sitting out licence is the tool that we can use to manage how that's used. We've had lots of discussions about the seating on the marketplace, how it should be maintained and what type of seating it should be. So it's durable, it doesn't get damaged by the weather, and it's in the right location. We've had lots of discussions about bins, type of waste bins, how we dispose of waste. That's still in train. And we've also had discussions about how in the future that should be managed, and that's what Anne's team are doing at the moment by getting this funding programme in place to have the resources available to us in the future to actually use it well, effectively, and to the benefit of all. So that's work in progress, and anybody who wants to join is very welcome to do so.
My final question.
I've got other people, my friend.
I know there are.
Yeah,
it's short.
Yeah.
Is there any way of slowing the traffic along St John Street? The big trucks love to enter the hill at speed, so that, and it's terrifying. They come along there like tanks into the Ukraine and go up that hill at a rate of knots. It's just not safe on that corner, and it's not safe along St John Street, and it won't be along that narrow street if you expect pedestrians to use these new pavements fully.
I empathise, I understand, and as you know, there is only one solution to this problem, really. And I might as well say it, because a lot of people in this room think it, I believe it. For the last 40 years, we've been trying to get there. There will be a planning application going in at the beginning of next year for the Relief Road. Now that has yet to be finalised. We've had delays with regard to DEFRA and the flood risk modelling and the environmental impact assessment, which has to be carried out as a consequence of the submission. Now, people may say, oh, it's taken a long time. It's taken a blooming long time. It's taken the whole of my life to get to this point. But I would say this, my personal view is that removing the HGVs from the town centre is the right way of approaching it. And all those issues you relate to in that particular instance will obviously be removed as a consequence. We can't put weight limits on the town centre unless we've got viable alternative routes, which we have not got. But please be assured that we are moving forward, and that planning application will be submitted shortly. We then need to get the funding for it. There is an estimated cost somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 million. I'm not sure exactly yet because we're not seeing the plans or the detailed engineering drawings. But the point is, there is only one solution in this programme as far as I'm concerned, and that is the ultimate solution to the issues you relate to. But be assured, I hope that the work we're doing today will, by the very nature of it and pedestrianising the town centre, slow the traffic down.
Can I just say, I didn't intend any of what I said as criticism.
I know you didn't.
I appreciate all your efforts,
Yeah.
and even though my house overlooks the bypass, where the bypass would go, I think you're right, it's the only solution.
Thanks for saying that, Eric. That's great. Mr. Brown.
I personally would just like to say thank you very much to everyone that has been involved in this. When it's poured off, it is going to be, you know, fantastic for the town. Bit of a thought that isn't going to affect myself, but it will affect other families, is when you put the road closure in St John Street, it is going to cause massive traffic delays. Well, I say massive, it's probably going to double what we've already got, possibly. My only thought process is people finishing sort of work and having to get across town, or, you know, maybe from Derby to pick the kids up. Would you guys be able to sort of liaise with the schools to see if they could, you know, not charge for late pickups, you know, if you have to put your kid in after school club because you've been stuck in the traffic?
Well, there's obviously discussions with the schools and the school travel plans. The schools, all the schools in the county have an obligation to provide a school travel plan. And some of the proposals that are out there on the boards for the traffic management while this is taking place, if we can, if the HGVs follow the suggested route or the diversion which has been proposed, that should see a massive reduction in the number of vehicles coming through the town while the work's taking place. We've also got to consider the buses getting to and from the school, so that's why we're talking about putting a one-way order on Hall Lane from the top to the bottom. Is that the right way? No. Yeah, from the top to the bottom, a one-way order on Hall Lane, and that's to facilitate the easier flow of traffic for the school's buses. Some of them have to come along Green Road and go north, and some of them come down Cochrane Avenue and go the other way. I get your point, and I think the engagement with the school will take place as a matter of course, because obviously week by week by week these closures are going to change. They're not going to be the same all the time. So there's going to be ongoing engagement. Anna's over there. She's going to be doing a lot of the PR about dealing with all the issues related to this, alongside Galliford Try's communication team, who are also going to be working alongside, along with the County Council's communication team and the District Council's communication team. So there's a lot of work taking place, but thanks for your comments. Anybody else? Caroline.
Thanks, Simon. Firstly, to answer the lady's question with regard to the disabled parking in Shawcroft, I understand that it's still going to stay there. They're just going to put it the opposite way, as I understand it, to stop traffic going along.
I've just had that confirmed, Caroline.
Yeah,
that is the case.
The second point of mine is, I'm glad you did mention the bridge, because I've never seen anybody build something and start one way and then come back and meet it at the other end, and that's why you've got a hole in the middle. I thought it was disgraceful. But finally, I just wanted to ask you about our project on Millennium Square, and I've looked at the architect's drawings, and I see that they've reduced the sets in Lower Cale and replaced them with paving stones. Now, this is Ancient Marketplace and is Grade 1 listed, and as such, I would have thought before you can do anything like that, you would have get permission to do that.
On the Millennium Square, Caroline, I just say to people, these are artists' impressions. They're not architects' drawings. That's the first point. They're just purely visual impressions. And I suspect when, we've had a discussion about this afternoon, I suspect when it is completed, it'll look very different to the artist's impression that you've received. And also, it'll be done in compliance with the planning permission that has been granted on there. Okay? Phil?
Very quickly, Simon. Two little questions. Obviously, the lady touched on it very early on about parking. Obviously, you're losing 31 spaces on the marketplace. People are parking on the Henmore Centre in the flats and there, and bottom of Park Road, Mayfield Road. Well, try and keep away from that place. We had an accident down there the other week. So parking is going to be paramount when it's all finished. Have anything in the pipeline for a bigger car park, a standard car park, or more land being available for a car park, because that is going to make a big impact onto this new venture. And the second one is, very quickly, the land between where you said that nobody knows where it is, near Chic and opposite, is that the place around there? Has it got anything to do with the old Kennings? Because obviously Kennings Garage used to be there. Is it still owned by them? If it was down to me, and I was on the chair in the committee, I would just carry on doing what you're going to do and do it anyway. Because if then somebody will come and say, well, hang on a minute, you can't do that, and then you'll probably find out. But they might come and pat you on the back and say, thank you very much. So,
if I was speaking for myself, I'll agree, but I'm not. There's this thing called law, you know, it's a bit of an inconvenience, I know, at times, but we have to make sure that we're compliant with the law. And there's also sort of legal agreements that are required to actually work on somebody else's land, let alone change the surface. So I get your point. As far as parking's concerned, there has been a change in the dynamics of parking on the marketplace, and what we've tried to do is reach a compromise. There is going to be more car parking on the road, as there used to be, because the traffic flow is going to be adjusted by contouring. There's also going to be loading bays throughout the town in locations specific, and they've been, as I say, discussed with the traders so they're in appropriate locations so they can operate in an effective way without having to stop in the flow of traffic. There has been lots of discussions about what should happen in the future. Now, Galliford Try are using Fishpond Meadows Overflow Car Park for the purpose of the depot, or the storage yard, whatever you want to call it. That was done many years ago. It has got a planning condition on it to keep it green. I hope at the end of this it will be used appropriately, because we can get a lot of cars on there, and if when they finish using it as a depot, we could probably at least put the parking back we've lost, if not increase it. And if you remember when we did Compton, and I got the flack because I did it, we introduced the parking spaces on Compton in the way we did. There was an awful lot of, this is madness, it's gone crackers, and within 2 weeks it was the best idea since sliced bread. So we got to the point where people engage with us, because one of the things that drives economic regeneration is allowing people to pull up quickly, do the shopping, do whatever business they need to do, and then get away. Now, those parking bays down there are now an hour, which I think is about right. They do want re-angling slightly. They want relining and adjusting slightly. But anybody who uses them knows it's regenerated Compton, and it's also put the footfall back in the street down there. It's blatantly obvious for all to see. So I'm hoping we can do more of that. And there are options around the town in the future where we could consider that, but we need to think carefully about how we do it. We can't do all of these things with the money we've got available to us, but the point's well made. The lady over here, Anna.
I just want to pick up on the parking issue again. Not only are we going to have problems of people scattering their cars all over, because that's all they can do, there are two issues. You keep coming back to the need to be able to hop out of your car and pop into a retailer and do your business and be on your way. I understand all that. But if the unit, the link unit, is a success, there's going to be a massive increase in car usage, and it's not going to be there for a few minutes. It's going to be there for several hours. There needs to be some provision to be able to take that traffic into a safe place. Otherwise, the cars are just going to congest everywhere.
I don't think there's an easy solution to this, quite frankly. car park in Ashbourne has always been a contentious issue. It's always been a challenge. The Shawcroft is our main centre car park. We didn't used to have that many years ago. But one thing that has come up continually over the years, and it's not a county council function, this is a district council function, I'm not going to speak for them, but I know one or two of the ideas that have been put forward over the years. And one of the most important ideas, I think, that has been put forward is payment on exit. Because what people tend to find, and the businesses I speak to, is that their customers come in and have to dash off because their car parking's about to run out. In my view, if we can find a way of allowing people to park suitably in suitable locations and including the overflow car park, which I think can get about 90 cars on, if I remember correctly. That's a bit of a guess, but I know it's about that figure. If we can get into a system where people pay on exit, we'll have better managed car parks, we'll have better trading for the customers who come and use the shopping in the town. And I think we need to start looking at the positives of this. I recognise there's going to be more people, but we have put in place measures that allow people to transfer to town easier than they have been able to do in the past. But car parking is always going to be an issue in a rural community because unfortunately we don't have the bus network that many urban settings have. Now, part of the scope of the County Council is an active travel programme, which is where the funding's come from for the lights, and that's to allow buses to move more freely around the town. And possibly we need to have a discussion about a strategy for a parking facility, not necessarily in the town centre, but with a transport network into it. But that's for the future, and it can't be covered off in this particular scheme. And I think we've got to look at the positives of this programme and make sure we see that the investment is going to bring people in. We don't want to turn people away from Ashbourne. This is a fabulous town, got lots to offer in lots of history, culture, heritage, fabulous church, brilliant school, all the things that people actually care about. So what I need to do, or what we need to do as a community, is try and address the issues off the back of that and look at it in a positive way, madam. Over here.
I just want to know where I can get a copy of those traffic flow diagrams or whatever, because I saw them on the screen, but it's a bit hard to...
Yeah, they'll be on the website, hopefully. Are they on the website, Anna?
Which website?
The Ashbourne Reborn website.
Okay. Yeah, when can I get them?
Are they?
So after today's meeting, we'll be putting them online, but they will be there.
Okay. And if you want to see them on paper, you'll be able to pop into the office very shortly. David?
As a district council person, I thought I ought to just say a bit about car parking. The district council is currently doing a review of car parking across the whole district, and I'm sure they'd be interested in your views in that. And there are some proposals in the paper that's now on the district council website under one of the council meetings. I'm not sure which it is. It could be communities and the environment, or it could be council. And it points to the car parking in Ashbourne, and one of the proposals is for Fish Pond Meadow, which would be 125 spaces as opposed to the 48 spaces that are currently on the marketplace. So I think it would be worth you look, if you're interested in car parking in Ashbourne, it would be worth looking at that paper, which is on the district council website under one of the meetings that's coming up in the near future. Say again?
There are endless documents listed on the district council website. That is not common. It needs to be made common.
Well, it's just been published, so it will be in a council meeting which is happening in the next week or so. So if you go through the committee papers, for the district council, the paper is there. And thank you.
Right, is there any more questions? There's There's two at the back here. Anna, sorry to make you walk around in circles. There's one over here. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, I'd just like to ask our district councillor friend, does he realise that the fish pond car park will have to be open when they make these spaces, because it is an overflow car park now and it is never open, not even in the arts festival weeks.
Yeah. Well,
So
I agree, but the surface is, to be fair, the surface has not been particularly fit to use, particularly in the winter time. If we're going to use it as a proper overflow facility, we've got to do something with the surface. It used to have globler on it, Ken, which is basically plastic meshing which the grass used to grow through. But because it's been used on 2 occasions already for construction works on the flood defence scheme that cuts across Park Road and the work that was carried out on the Memorial Gardens, it's been damaged to such an extent, it's now like a quagmire. So we need to address that and we need to sort it out, and I'm sure the District Council are listening to what you're saying. I don't blame you, mate. I agree with you. 2 people over here.
I was wondering what consideration had been made towards the speed limits, so particularly along St John Street and the Marketplace, because potentially that might help with public safety, with the trucks thundering past that people seem to be talking about.
This scheme is not 20 mile an hour, I suspect, is what you're talking about. I can tell you now the County Council won't be introducing a 20 mile an hour speed limit within the town. And there is scientific evidence to support that. And I've already said the County Council solution to this problem, as it should have always been, is to build a relief road. And that's the way to deal with the traffic management, the speed, the danger, and also the environmental impact on the town. And we're not talking about building a dual carriage motorway past the town. What we're talking about is building a normal road, single track in both directions, with speed control on it, which will also slow down the traffic and allow it to flow freely. But I get your point, madam. I know there is a campaign out there wanting 20 is plenty. The County Council policy is clear for all to see, and we won't be introducing a 20 mile an hour zone in the town.
Okay, just a quick one on the lights. Yeah, as a driver, I think they work great.
That's good to hear, sir.
As a pedestrian, I think from some approaches it can be rather hard to see how they're cycling. I think a few more little green man displays on some of them would be really useful, because you can sort of get caught out, especially I think if you're not familiar with the junction, you can maybe not even recognise there's lights there because there's not as many lights as there are in a typical road junction. So there's maybe just a couple of red lights that are pointing away from you. You know, you might not actually see them. I think there needs to be a bit of a survey done and maybe a few more displays for pedestrians around those lights.
I think when we finish with the street scene itself, sir, with the paving of the areas, the winding of the pavements, how they are designed, those traffic lights will become far clearer and far more apparent in the street scene itself. May I suggest we give it time to see how it comes out, but I make a note of what you just said to me.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? There's a lady in the middle here.
Hi, this is still on St John Street. I think it looks great. Honestly, I think the widening of the pavements and the illusion of it being a pedestrian area is amazing. I love it. But there's some big challenges on the first part of St John Street where the HGVs turn from Dig Street right into St John Street. At the moment, the unloading zone for trade is on the left-hand side. I think it's being moved to the other side.
It's actually a coach drop-off point, actually.
It says unloading bay on the road.
Yeah, I know it does, but that's what it was put in for originally.
Okay.
You know.
Regardless, whatever it is, members of the public use it to go to the drink shop. They park along there. They park as far back as Poms sometimes, even Sinful and Slater. What happens is that you get a couple of cars or one van and then another one, and then the HGVs try and turn right, they just can't do it. So the bollards opposite the bank on St John Street side are continually smashed. I've seen little old men trying to put them back out of good manners. It doesn't happen. I've seen every time the largest HGVs turn right there, the cab comes completely over the pavement, not the wheels, but the cab. I've seen people in wheelchairs being pushed into doorways. It's so dangerous. And I don't know what you can do about that unless you can prevent the largest of the HGVs from turning right on that corner, and if you can prevent the public using, I mean, delivery drivers have got to have a place to go, but it's just all backing up, and then 10 minutes later the road's at a standstill.
I agree with everything you've just said, and let me just give you a taste of some of the solutions that have been discussed about that very issue. Firstly, I want to talk about the temporary bollards that are put in. Those temporary bollards are what they are. They're temporary. They were put in after COVID to maintain the width of the pavement at the request of the public. And the bollards you're talking about outside the machine pub and the bank have been replaced 4 times. I paid for those out of my community leadership fund as a temporary measure to keep the public a little safer. They are being permanently vandalised by someone, I've got a pretty good idea whom, during the early hours of the morning. They are bolted to the floor, supposed to be. They've been ripped up. Somebody's had a crowbar underneath them on numerous occasions. And the upright stanchions have been taken away, as you've probably noticed. They are not cheap. I just say to people, deliveries need to take place, but you can, it won't kill you to walk 5 yards. And what I would say to the people who are doing it, and there are cameras around the town, so what I would say to people who are doing it, you're not thinking of the residents of the town when you're doing this and you're vandalising public property. With regard to parking on the left-hand side, opposite or at the bottom of Victoria Square, when the work has been completed, they won't be able to do that because there won't be the facility to do it, and there'll be loading bays specifically for loading in various locations, which a lot of people have spent a lot of time discussing with the shopkeepers and local residents. We're going to have to see how they work. I hope they're in the right place. You never know when you're designing these things, but hopefully HGVs should be able to pull in and unload in specific locations which they can get to. There's one particular area of concern on Dick Street because we intend to put in a loading bay on the right-hand side, but we can't because the IT equipment that's in the road would cost millions of pounds to move, and we can't put the bay in because of that IT equipment in the road or the pavement area adjacent to it. So that is the only place it's going to be a little awkward where they're going to have to cross the road with the goods. But other than that, I totally agree that people are parking inconsiderately. And one other thing that's been considered and is being considered is changing the traffic flow around the town. That can still be done after this has been implemented, because we can put traffic regulation orders in place that reflect the issues you've just been talking about. Is it possible to get around the corner? And there has been a suggestion that possibly HGVs should be directed down Clifton Road, Station Road and down Church Street, unless they're coming down Compton for a specific reason, which of course the Sainsbury's lorries have to, because that's their loading bay down there. So, I get the message. We are thinking about it, and you make a reasonable fine point.
I think the final point I'd make on that is I don't believe that it's going to change people's parking habits. I think regardless of yellow lines, regardless of parking bays, I think people are still going to park on the pavement with beautiful new pavements all laid out for our enjoyment, and I fear that in a year's time there'll be grooves and cracks and because of inconsiderate parking and the lorries mounting the pavements.
I agree that people's habits need to change. Our enforcement teams can be brought in to focus on areas that are causing significant problems. And if that was has to happen, that's what will happen, I can assure you. And we'll work with the District Council. There'll be far more vigorous approaches on the parked areas. And as far as vehicles parked on the pavement are concerned, I share your concerns, as I've already said. That is an issue for the police, and they've got to tackle it. So I'll happily bring that up with the local inspector, which I've done on numerous occasions, and will continue to do so. The gentleman at the side of you, if he wants.
Just on that final point, I'm going to use Matlock as a bit of a reference. Matlock had significant investment in the pavements around 10, 15 years ago. Yep. All the flags laid down, looked wonderful. But you look outside Greggs, for example, and where the Greggs lorry parks up every single morning, evening to load up, the flags are all smashed up. If we have a similar situation in Ashbourne where we lay these nice flagstones down, Ashbourne has far more HGV traffic. We have far more deliveries in the centre of town than those positions in Matlock do, for example. We're going to invest all this money in these fancy pavements. They're going to get smashed up in 6 weeks.
Well, as far as we have tried to anticipate the worst, and if you look down Church Street as you see it now, there's high density sets all the way down either side. They are designed to park on, believe it or not. Not we're encouraging anybody to do so, but they are designed for that purpose. There are measures being put in place. Did we cover that off in the design? Yeah. The materials adjacent to the side of the road are high density, far more versatile materials than the ones further in. So we have considered that. And hopefully we shouldn't get the damage you're talking about, because we have learnt from Matlock and other areas in the county, and we've had lots of discussions about this. So I hope that answers your question, sir. Time will tell it. Well, anybody else? Anne, did you want to ask something?
It was only to say, really, I think, we certainly do. We all really recognise, like you say, it's been a lifetime investment on your part in terms of a relief road. And I think everybody appreciates that. I think maybe we're all at the end of our tether with that, that rat run, that runway that runs through there. And it's just, what we've tried to do with this is to try to deliver some mitigating factors that can improve it. But I think there's potentially more that can be done. And, some of the issues that we've talked about here about slowing traffic, can we not look at it more closely and really understand, could there be an exception for Ashbourne? Could it actually help Ashbourne if there was, a speed limit that's 20 miles an hour on that?
You're probably not aware of this. We did 3 years ago make a manifesto commitment to introduce two green towns in the county. One of them was in Buxton, and one of them was in Long Eaton. Both towns suffer from similar traffic movements to our own. Not the same, but similar. Long Eaton in particular. Now, there was proposals put in, and just before I go any further, it isn't just me on the Ashbourne Relief Road. My pal over there is an awful great advocate and a great supporter of this scheme. So Steve Bull does an awful lot of work alongside me to achieve that. So I just want to make that clear. But we did put in place a proposal for a 20 mile an hour trial town in 2 locations. Now, both those locations went to public consultation. We've tried it in Padfield, which is in the north of the county, north of Buxton. We tried it in another location, which I've forgotten exactly where it was, but we put forward proposals. with technical drawings, detailed proposals for reduction of speed in the town centre, and other material measures such as narrowing the streets, putting crossing points in, etc. It's very similar to what we're doing with the Ashbourne Reborn project. And we went to consultation, and the population of those two towns vehemently opposed the introduction of a 20-mile-an-hour limit in both cases, vehemently. And we had stacks of representations from them. It wasn't of our making. We did a genuine consultation, and a vast proportion of people did not want to see the introduction of a 20-mile-an-hour zone or speed limit in the town centre. And as a consequence, the whole schemes were shelved. So I hear what you're saying. I hear what other people are saying as well. But I would suggest to you, you're in a minority. If the information we've received and got evidence of is anything to go by.
I think probably like to test that in Ashbourne and see if we get the same response.
Can we have town referendum?
You can't have a town referendum unless there's a proposal and the money to do it. And we've got to, you know, I'm not going to stand here today and say this will be included as part of this scheme, because it won't. This scheme is not going to have mission creep because we're struggling to keep within the budget now. If it's something that's done in the future in an independent way, fine. The point is, at this moment in time, that's not going to be included in this scheme. So I want to make that perfectly clear. Kim?
Simon, you touched on it earlier. You and I have discussed in the past the fact that I produced a traffic management plan for the town, and we discussed the possibility of the town team being able to talk to officers in a meaningful way about that, to try and come up with an idea that looks at traffic holistically in terms of the routes that HGVs use around the town. The lady at the back there was talking about heavy goods vehicles turning right from Digg Street into St John Street. That is a horrendous problem that exists there at the moment. We're all aware of that. But the question is, can we commit to have that discussion between the town team and officers of the Highways Authority, so that we can actually assist, as the town team, we can assist talking to residents and retailers in terms of coming up with some ideas about how we can formally route traffic around the town to try and help. Places like Station Street, for example, shouldn't have two-way HGVs on it. It doesn't need to have two-way HGVs on it. And those are the things we need to be looking at.
Well, you gave me a detailed document, which has been handed to the senior management team of the County Council. Basically, this document, ladies and gentlemen, consisted of a proposal to manage traffic flow around the town. But of course, with all schemes of this nature, there's people who gain from the proposal, and there's also people who lose from the proposals. Now, when I say lose, probably have intensification of traffic on the road that they live on, for example. Now, I actually think what you put forward was a reasonable, measured idea, and I think it's got some merit. But I don't think, firstly, we've got the resources to do it at the moment, and secondly, that we can include it in this package. But I do think it is something we need to consider at the end of it, and I think it's something that you ought to consider moving forward long term about how we manage the traffic flows around the town. And that's why I mentioned, for example, at the moment, lorries can come down Mayfield Road if you can get through the traffic jams and the parked cars and everything else. And they can also come down Clifton. If you put forward a proposal that funnels that traffic down Clifton Road only, which is a possibility in one direction or another, obviously there's got to be a full consultation document. It's like any changes. No changes on the highway structures, unless they are emergency changes or temporary traffic regulation orders, can be introduced on a permanent basis with a full consultation with the public. As I've said in Long Eaton and Buxton. And if the public say no, pretty much that's the end of it, to all intensive purposes, as far as they're concerned, as far as the traffic regulation orders are concerned. With regard to traffic flow around Ashbourne, we were talking about sending some of the lorries up Derby Road and back down the bypass, if I remember correctly, and having one-way traffic down Station Road down to the lights in one direction. There is common sense to that. I don't know what the study, if there needs to be studies on carbon emissions, because as a lorry accelerates around the corner of bottom of Derby Hill, there's going to be noxious gases. We've got to consider all the options, but I don't disagree with you fundamentally. I don't think the system we have at the moment is anywhere near perfect, that's for certain. And the lady raised the question about traffic turning around the corner on Dig Street, and moving that traffic going in another direction may be a sensible option. But of course, then you're intensifying traffic outside the church. The church might have something to say about that, bearing in mind the work that's being carried out there. These are all the things we have to consider. And then we've got the added complication, of course, of these traffic regulations orders we're putting in place at the moment, sending all these HGVs through Cromford, through Brassington will be affected undoubtedly because they'll nip through Brassington, Many Stones Lane, Longcliffe. There's all those implications of any measures you put in place, and you need to consider them in the wider context. That's all I'd say to you. Any more? Yeah.
With regard to St John Street, what happens in the case of emergency, God forbid a fire, or there's an ambulance? Is it going to block the road, and then it's obviously going to make the traffic back up? Can you tell me what the provision is for that?
Well, there's loading bays, Carolyn.
I know, but I mean, I know you've got loading bays, but the fire might not be in the loading bay.
Well, as you know, I was a firefighter for 20
I
years,
know.
and you know, there are certain measures can be put in place if you need to get through, I can assure you. Okay. Any more? One more over here. Gentleman over here, and I'm going to wind it up, but thank you very much, all of you.
Yeah, how you doing? I've only lived in Ashbourne for 2 years, so I don't know the history of it all about this relief road.
Yeah.
So, but my question is, I mean, it's blatantly obvious to anyone with a pair of eyes that the heavy goods vehicles coming through Ashbourne is ludicrous, is probably the polite way to put it. Mm-hmm. And being as it's, as far as I've read, the pollution is at illegal levels, from what I've read. I don't know if that's true or not. Why is this seemingly simple task not happened in the last 40 years? I knew that I'd get a laugh, but like I say, I've only lived there for 2 years, so I have no clue about the history of it. I'd just like an answer, because you're the guy obviously in the know, so you'd be able to give me an answer to something that seems blatantly obvious to an outsider.
I'm glad you think it's simple, sir, but I mean, when I started this project,
in other
I used to have
countries,
long hair, and it wasn't great.
In other countries, they do manage to do these things quite easily. It just seems the bureaucracy that is UK government, it makes it, and it is simple really. Building a road is not difficult.
Well, let me just give you just a flavour, very quickly. Last point. This town, 40 years ago, about 40 years ago, started a debate about the provision of a relief road. It was called the bypass then. We did a consultation on it. At that time, it was added to the district council's policy plan. And there was an ambition that the town had this relief road to alleviate HGVs from the town. And let me explain to you why we need it more than anything else. Because not just the concept of HGVs. Derbyshire provides 48% of the national mineral requirements for the country. It comes out of Derbyshire quarries. 48% of the national requirement. From limestone, gravel, fluoride, cement, you name it, comes out of Derbyshire. You can't move the quarries. You can't change the road network. And there has been over the years numerous governments who've given funding. It comes from the mineral extraction grants. Now, I've been calling now for many years that the mineral extraction grants be used on providing infrastructure for the communities that actually experience the impact of quarrying. Remember, it produces 48% of the national mineral requirement. It creates thousands of jobs in the quarries. It creates thousands of jobs in the haulage industry and further afield. And we should be supporting the industry that provides Derbyshire was built on mining of all sorts of things, from coal right the way through to limestone. I agree now, as I agreed 40 years ago, that we need a relief road. And we have to, as a community, convince there's 64 councillors on Derbyshire County Council, all representing their own areas, all with their own challenges, all with their asks. We have 2 councillors representing this area on the County Council. That's myself and Steve at the moment. I've had the privilege of serving for the last 16 years as the deputy leader and also the representative of Dovedale, which represents half the town, to Tideswell. And I totally agree with your sentiments about it needs to be done. If we do get the planning permission, which isn't a foregone conclusion, I might add, and I have to declare a prejudicial interest in that because my family own land on that side of the town, but I make that clear. If we do get planning permission, be assured there'll be loads of campaigners coming out of the woodwork who will oppose it, from the CPRE to the Ramblers Association to every Tom, Dick and Harry who doesn't want to build roads. That's the first point. The final point is we then need 20 million quid to build it. The county council hasn't got it. It could be sourced through the industry itself, through the from the taxes that they pay for mining in Derbyshire. There's lots of options, but the first hurdle is to get the planning permission. And be assured, if we get that planning permission, we're in a far stronger place than we are now as far as getting that relief road and getting those cars out of the town. And I didn't want this to turn into an Ashbourne Relief Road night because I've been doing this for a very long time. But you've been here a short time, sir. Can you imagine my frustration? Yep. Well, there is a NOx monitoring process taking place, which the district council as the appropriate authority do to monitor NOx levels within the town. That's their role as the environmental health agency. But it's my job to put forward proposals. Now, there has been proposals put forward to reduce it. The traffic lights being some of them. I'm not suggesting that's the cure. I've said what the cure is, and I agree with you. But that still doesn't get away from the fact we need 20 million quid to build it, with the greatest respect. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sit down now and I'm going to hand over to David. Thank you very much. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope I have done my very best to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Spencer. I think he's done a grand job in fielding some very interesting questions. I think we've noted a number on parking. A lot of discussion on parking, particularly disabled parking, disabled access to the marketplace and other areas of the town, and the problems of traffic speed and volume and the HGVs through the centre of the town. Like Councillor Spencer, I think it's a personal position, but I think it's also the position of the district council that a bypass or a relief road is required for Ashbourne. I'd point out that we now have an East Midlands combined county authority and a mayor, and they have some responsibility over transport and roads, and they are at the moment putting forward, developing their transport policy and strategy. So that is another, the idea is that money is devolved to the regional body by the Ministry of Transport, and that can be used as the region thinks is appropriate. So I think the County Council will certainly be working with EMCA, the East Midlands Combined County Authority, to push forward this scheme if it can. So thank you very much all for coming tonight. As I said, you've identified a number of issues that we will be considering over the next few weeks and in the implementation of the programme as it now stands. So thank you for coming and good night.